Hello, welcome to this video. I'm just going to show you guys what I've been working on. This is a chiller checklist. Something like this should be filled out on any service round. And so I've decided to make it as a spreadsheet that's interactive and has PT charts built into the back of it. The reason I've done that is so that it catches bad data with the unit, for instance, bad transducers or bad temperature readouts, things that are physically impossible. This will catch and mark that for you. If you put in the wrong data or you've written down the wrong data, this will also catch that. And if a unit is running bad, if you've got fouling or low refrigerant, this sheet should pick that up as well. Now, I've had some people say that they don't want a Excel spreadsheet to think for them, but I think even the best tech can use tools to be better. And if this catches things that you might forget if you're tired or you're new to the industry, then I think this is useful. So feel free to use this. The link will be to the download will be in the description, and I'll be updating it regularly. If you have any input, feel free to reach out and I can maybe make some things happen. But we'll just go through it together. I've just thought up a little glycol chiller that we can use this data and we can go through this. So obviously here we've got the client chiller asset, stuff like that. So that's doesn't have any impact on the sheet itself. So they're pretty self-explanatory. We have some drop downs here to make life easy. So 3 months, 6 months, annually. So we'll just say 6 monthly for this. Refrigerant type. Now these are the ones that I've built in. So we'll just do 407C because it's got quite a big glide. And I can show you that that glide has been built into the check sheet. So you don't have to worry about bubble or dew. This does that for you. Click check, sure. Compressor. So you can choose from different compressors as well. This is what I call building your system into the sheet. And depending on the compressors, you will have different parameters that a unit should be running in. So I'm just going to go reciprocating for this. And once I put some data in, I'll change it to Centrif just so you can see that some data will not like being under Centrif, but it does like being under reset. Now we can, for the condenser, we've got air-cooled shell side refrigerant, so that's self-explanatory, but the refrigerant is outside of the tubes, the water is going through the tubes. Tube side refrigerant is like a DX system. The reason I've called this shell side and not flooded is because we've got things like falling film now as well. But for this example, I'll just go plate. Same goes with the evaporator. I'll go plate. And ambient temperature, I'll just say 20 degrees or something. Now, notice that there is no units on any of this data. So we have to add units by selecting a pressure type and a temperature type. I work in Celsius, so I will be doing this example in Celsius, but you can choose Fahrenheit and everything will come up in F. But I work in Celsius, so we'll do that. And same goes with pressure. I work in kilopascals gauge for this example, but you can totally do PSI or gauge or absolute or kPa absolute if you're working on a chiller that runs in a vacuum. For example, some of the new 1233 Centrifs by York, they run in a vacuum, so we would use absolute. But for this example, again, I'm going to use kPa gauge. Cool. So after that, we've got compressors. And in the compressors, I've just got one rule, which is if a compressor starts more than 5 times per hour of runtime, we have an issue. and that's not entirely true. Some smaller units don't run that long, but for bigger chillers, this will be a flag. So I'll show that here. So if we go 50 hours of runtime and we have 250 starts, we're all good. And if we change that to 251, we are running into problems. And yeah, like I said, that is not definitive. There's something wrong with your machine, but it is just to keep an eye on this. Right, we'll go to the compressor data. So we'll go 1250 discharge pressure. That's giving us a saturated condensing temperature of 30 degrees. And we'll go for a discharge temperature of 50 degrees, which is giving us discharge superheat of 20K. And our suction temperature will go 8. Now that's the suction temperature on the compressor. This stuff here will sort itself out once I've filled in the rest. So come down here to condensing pressure. We'll go 1200. So it's a little bit low. We've got a little bit of a pressure drop down our discharge line. We've got a liquid line temperature of 25, which is giving us a subcooling of 3.5 degrees. And we'll go condenser in 24 degrees, condenser out 30 degrees. Move on to the evaporator at 300 kPa for the suction. We'll have -1 degree suction temperature, so that's the suction temperature coming out of the compressor. So we've got a bit of a rise there, 9K between the suction inlet of the compressor and the leaving of the evaporator, but that's fine, it's just an example. We'll go 1 degree water in and -7 degrees leaving. Now, we have a suction temperature of, we'll call it -4 degrees, and an evaporator leaving temperature of -7. So that is just showing that we've got the glide built in. I'm saying that's not flagging it. If I said 0 degrees, we've actually got a really high approach. We've got a lot of fouling in that evaporator. And that's because it's taking into account the glide. So the glide on 407C is about 10 degrees between the condensing temperature and the evaporating temperature. So we'll go back here, -7. So we're obviously running a glycol system, otherwise we'll be frozen. Now notice that this stuff here has gone blue again. That's all within range. And what we can do is, if I say, for instance, change this to, this is a bit exceptional, but 30 degrees, you see this goes red, and that's because the evaporator superheat is now higher than the discharge superheat. And that's not possible because the compressor has to add superheat. So the compressor superheat has to be more than the evaporator superheat. So we'll just change that back to 1. Sorry, -1. And then the other thing is, if the evaporator temperature out is 1, our evaporator approach is now out of range. So this is suggesting that there's fouling for that system. And if we went 2, we've got negative split on our evaporator, so that's physically impossible. So that's just, this dark red means something's thermodynamically not possible. So change that back to -7, and that is a healthy system. And just to show, if we change the pressure type, so if we go PSI, obviously these are extortionately high pressures now with PSI, but down here you can see that the evaporator PSI picks that up. So we'll go back to kPa gauge and then Fahrenheit, you can see that, wow, okay, so I need to build in some rules for Fahrenheit because these offsets are all for Kelvin. So I've got a little bit of work to do after this video, but never mind. We'll just continue. For the voltages, I've got two selections here, 230 and 400. Obviously I can add more, but this is what I work with in New Zealand. So we'll go 400, we're in a three-phase system, and we'll just go 80 amps per phase with a full load amp of 120. So it's giving us the full load amp percentage, so the percentage that the max current that the unit is using, and it is calculating the input kilowatts for the compressor. And at the moment these currents for the pumps, sorry, are not linked to anything. This is just purely for historical data to look back on. I may add these into a full system COP, but that's another thing for another day. So we've got flow here, and we will try 9 liters per second. So what's happening here is this is calculating the flow rate against the change in temperature across the condenser, and it's giving us a heat output in kilowatts. And if we do the same here for the evaporator, we can see that our evaporator is absorbing 170 kilowatts of heat. We are putting in 55 kilowatts of heat with the compressor, and we are outputting 226 kilowatts of heat with the condenser, and we've got a evaporator to compressor COP of 3, so not super efficient, but hey, it's more than one. And then, yeah, so expansion valve 60%, it's all good. This here's got built into over 60, so 61 starts marking as a potential issue. Generally, if an expansion valve is over 60% open, I would start looking at issues around leaks. We'll just keep that at 60. Oh, go 61. We'll keep it red. Cool. Then we have, in here we have sight glass. Right, we'll just say flashing just for this example. Condenser condition, good. Compressor and evaporator are both good. Wiring condition needs attention. Electrical condition needs attention. Good. Overall needs attention. All right. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then we've got oil pressure set point. You don't have to worry about that for. Well, sorry, yeah, you don't have to worry about it at all. But they're good historic measurements to keep hold of. We've got oil level, so we've got for systems with lower sight glass, upper sight glass. If they don't have 2 sight glasses, they only have 1. And we would go here. So let's pretend that this has a small oil separator. It's got 2 sight glasses, and we're going to have a full lower sight glass. Oil sample taken, sure. And then down here we can write maybe high, compressor starts, sight glass flashing, check for leaks, I don't know, something like that. I know we've said we've leak checked, but obviously we didn't do a good job. And that can be exported as a PDF, and that looks something like this. So if I was a customer and I received something like this, I'd be pretty happy with that. You've got the little section for technician notes, system overview, what's good, what could be improved. Yeah, if you have any suggestions about that, I'd love to hear it. Now we can go into the back end of it and how it all works. So I have this page here, which is the PT data. I've just added headings so that anyone that wants to work on it or wants to have a play with it, they can see how everything works. At the moment, we've just got this set of refrigerants, and notice that all the pressures here are the same. So this is the pressure that this user has put in the front for the discharge pressure. This is the pressure for the condenser, and this is the pressure for the evaporator. And if we look here, we've got pure refrigerants, 134A, R32. So here we've got bubble and dew is the same. We've got 410, which bubble and dew is very similar. And then we have 407C, which has quite a big glide. So I'll be adding some more in. I think R22 will be my next one. But if there's anything people suggest for me to put in there, I will think about it and I can put that in. We have Fahrenheit adjustment here for temperatures, PSI offset, gauge offset. So these tables are all in kPa absolute, and yeah, depending on what the user selects, these offsets will be used for that. Now this sheet uses interpolation, so you can notice that these are all in 2-degree Kelvin increments, and what happens is this pressure gets looked up in this table, and we'll find the closest number to that, so 56 down. So we're looking at here 1252. Sorry, 60 down. Yeah, so it's about here. 1351. I've just lost my train of thought. 1351. Yeah, so it's sitting here. So this is said that 56 down from this table here, we are at the closest number, and then it gets the next closest number, and it will interpolate a temperature based off those over here. So in that case, that's 50.98 degrees. And you'll see that if we come back here and we change our refrigerant type to 134A, we have 51. So 50.98, 51. And then for the building the system, we have the compressor data page. This should really be called unit data, but I can't change the name anymore because then things will break. But we have ranges built in. So this is currently just for Celsius ranges, I just realized. So I'll have to make another table like this for Fahrenheit ranges. And yeah, hopefully that will work fine. This is just the front end names. So I'm sure there's an easier way of programming that, but just depending on what the user selects here, the names of everything will change. And then in the back end, I've got a notes section to see what I'm working on at the moment. So if people do use this, feel free to check up on the folder every now and then. There might be an update, and if there is an update, you'll see what's being worked on in the sheet. Now there will be 2 versions of the sheet available. One will be completely unlocked like this one. I will also have a version that is locked, and that means that you can't break the sheet essentially. So all of these things have got formulas in, especially back here, everything's got pretty long if strings. And yeah, I don't want people to break that and then um, have an issue on their end. Obviously, it doesn't matter on my end because I've got heaps of copies of it. Um, so, so for people to not break it, I'll have a fully locked version. You'll only be able to see this front end, and you can only change the white cells. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments, and feel free to use it. Yeah, sweet. Cheers.